Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hope you are doing well. Welcome at the OECD and for this fifth edition of the Creativity in Education Summit. And so the last time it happened at the OECD. My name is Stefan Vincent Lancrin. I lead the work on creativity and critical thinking in the Center for Educational Research and Innovation. And so, the organizing with my colleague Cassie, who is here, some of the work, and my head of division, who's sitting next to me, Loukkola, who is going then to chair. So it's a big warm welcome to you to be here, and warm welcome to all the colleagues on Zoom and following all of this online. So we'll have 2 wonderful days where we're going to talk about how to make things move forward and work in terms of how we can work with schools, how we can work with teachers to make these things happen with teacher educators, and when we can actually address some of the current challenges that we have on digitalization and sustainability and climate change. So warm welcome. We're going to now, my pleasure is also this is a co-organized meeting with the Global Institute of Creative Thinking, and then we have with us Frank Hilo and Bill Lucas representing them, and that's my pleasure to pass the floor so that they can also welcome you.
Oh, I thought I was going to pass straight away to Frankie, but I'm passing to myself. It's lovely to see you here. I'm Bill Lucas. I'm Professor of Learning at the University of Winchester, long-standing collaborator with Stefan here at the OECD, and it's my privilege to chair the advisory board of the Global Institute of Creative Thinking. I will say just a few words, but not now, because I want to pass to my right and invite Frankie to say a few words first.
Good morning. Welcome to you all. As the founder of GIOCT and the visionary behind the summit, I've been lucky enough to experience all the previous conferences. Since our first summit in 2019, we see that our world is changing fast, with a lot of uncertainty, as well as some positive transformations. Change is good. Change is evolution. Together, if we harness our creativity, we can make a difference to improve our world. Congratulations on taking the first step by being here. Your presence shows you care. We passionately care too. The summit is yours, and it's all about your contribution. You are a crucial part of what we are cooking up for the future. As you have heard from Bill and Stefan, we've got so many exciting global action plans which we'll be sharing with you in the next 2 days. This is just the beginning. It's still a long journey ahead, and each of you will play a role in our next chapter. So make your own amazing adventure. These 2 days are about each of you personally increasing your capacity to use your creativity to make the world a better place. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Would you please test your microphone on your table? I think let's get the shoe on the road and keep the action rolling.
To just press.
Now it's your turn to get inspired and connected. Action.
Thank you. So actually, as OECD person, so there are a few rules in this room, and when you, and one is that, each time you take the floor and you push your mic, actually, no one else. So don't stop, because people are on Zoom, and if there is no microphone, they cannot hear anything. So that's, so don't push your mic, all the time, but only when you're given the floor. So that's the idea, basically, that's, so we are very creative, but only to some extent, so that's, so
Thanks. Stefan has stolen my thoughts there, which is brilliant. I just have a very short number of slides to start us off. Federica, if we could have those now, that would be great, because I have a chance tomorrow to say more to you. Let me see if they're coming up.
We have the minister waiting.
He's got 3 minutes, hasn't he?
Okay.
Okay, I promise. So last year we shared our sense of the progress that we were making across the world, looking at everything from status to the kind of professional learning that we know will help us develop. This year, one more please, back. Can you just go back one?
You can do the
I was. Here we go. So just imagine it's the Middle Ages and we're sailing down the River Seine to go on an adventure. In those days, the two-dimensional world felt like we might fall off the end. And at that same time, if this is an image for learning and what we know about the learning sciences, we thought that all you needed to be successful was to know a lot of things, the tabula rasa. Now we know that we need to be successful in so many different ways in our three-dimensional round Earth. And that very strongly includes one of many C's, but in our case, creativity and critical thinking. Over the course of the time together and using the creativity of the OECD, we have fixed chairs but not fixed minds. We can only talk one-on-one, but we'll have lots of other opportunities. We'll be sharing with you our exciting development about a new schools week across the world. I'll say more about that tomorrow. We'll also be introducing you to a wonderful new app, the development of which has been undertaken by Stefan and his colleagues over a number of years. More of that again tomorrow. We'll be introducing you to a new awards scheme, and here are just some of the international committee. We're still building this, so those spaces that you can see at the bottom will be filled shortly. And we'll also be inviting you, some of you have already done this, to share your brilliant work at the school level. So we're going to be harvesting case studies from across the world so that wherever you are, you can go to a school and say, that's a bit like mine, or I could do that from this example and that from the other example. The QR code there will take you to our website. Thank you so much. Back to you, Stefan.
Actually, we're not going to back to Stefan. I am taking the floor at the moment. So as I already said, my name is Loukkola. I'm the head of Innovation and Measuring Progress Division here at OECD. And it is my pleasure to moderate this session until we get to the coffee break. So please bear with me. We will start with an opening address by the Minister of Education from Portugal, João Costa. He has kindly stepped out from the EU Council of Ministers, if I understand correctly, in Brussels. So he's not as far away as Portugal. He's just around the corner, but unfortunately could not make it here due to the important meeting. So he will be addressing us from Zoom, explaining to us what the importance of creativity really is in this modern day of the world, where we talk a lot about artificial intelligence, and also then perhaps give us some examples of what Portugal is doing in this regard. João.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm actually in Portugal because Creative COVID decided to visit me again. So I'm from home with a poster behind me saying that, from a Portuguese poet saying that happiness is the most serious thing in life. And I'd like to thank you very much for inviting me for this opening address, and thank OECD and the Forum for Creative Thinking for this opportunity. It was an opportunity for me to think again about the role of creativity and critical thinking in education, and also an opportunity to share a bit of what we've been doing here in Portugal, or trying to do. I'm going to share a short presentation. I think it will work. Yes.
Yes,
I
it
think
works.
you can see it. Okay. So what I will try to do in the next couple of minutes is to make the case, to argue for why we really need to introduce creativity and critical thinking in our curricula, and why we should do it, and ways in which we can do it. And the steps I will take is I will give you 11 reasons for doing it. In some way, I always think that we shouldn't justify creativity, but I will try to make the point anyway. I chose 11 reasons because I thought I would be creative and not use any round number. Normally we say 7 reasons, 10 reasons, 3 reasons. So I decided to go for 11 to make a point for creativity in the number of reasons. So trying to figure out, yeah. So just to set the ground a bit, I'd like to say that many times when we are discussing education, we are in some of our countries discussing a lot of what I consider to be false dichotomies. For instance, we still have discussions on whether we should have a knowledge-based curriculum or a competence-based curriculum, as if we could live only with knowledge, or as if we could build competencies on the basis of nothing, on the basis of emptiness. We've been happily discussing more and more quality education as inclusive education. That is to say that if an education system is not inclusive, we cannot say that we have a quality education because it doesn't reach everyone. But in many times, some try to make a discussion between, not a very open discussion, but it's an underlying debate on whether systems should be inclusive or target excellency. For instance, here in Portugal, we passed a very ambitious law on inclusive education, but some try to say that this is lowering the standards and not aiming for excellency in education. And again, of course, this is a false dichotomy, because what we want is to be inclusive so that everyone reaches the limit of its capacities and learns as much as is possible. Another debate that goes on more in the public opinion than actually on the education world is when we are talking about happiness and joy as a goal of education. Some people say, no, school must be a place of hard work and suffering, and happiness does not play a role. That's for outside the school. As if we could have a good happiness, a quality happiness, let me put it this way, on the basis of no knowledge, or as if we should expect children to be very serious and very quiet for the rest of their lives because they only had knowledge but they were not happy. And of course, the big debate on whether education should be undergoing this back to basics movement, or to target a holistic approach in which, yes, we need foundational knowledge like literacies, mathematics, sciences, but we need to go beyond encyclopedic knowledge and to discuss also the value of this knowledge and how to integrate all the knowledge and competencies and skills that we develop in school. So what I will try to do is that when we are discussing, convince you that when we are discussing the role of creativity and creative thinking in education, we are also trying to undo some of these false dichotomies. Of course, when we are trying to do a case, make a case for creative and critical thinking, we have to know, we have to be aware that this debate is much more important these days. It has always been important to discuss creativity and critical thinking in education, but we need to bear in mind that there are new facts happening in our world that make the development of these two competencies more and more important. And of course, the context is the one that we all know. We are experiencing and starting to discuss the fast evolution of artificial intelligence, which means that, and I will go back to this, that there are already machines that feed us with information very, very fast, that calculates and creates text and images and solutions for problems, or apparent solutions for problems, at a very fast pace. We are dealing, and our youngsters look at the future with a big concern on climate change, on what the world will be like. We have to solve problems very quickly to guarantee the sustainability of our planet. We live in a world where in the middle of an avalanche of information, but this does not mean that we live in an avalanche of knowledge, and we see fake news populating the public speech and reaching our phones and our computers every day, and we need to be able to navigate in this world. We live in a much more globalized and more diverse world. The fantasy that we had homogeneous classes in schools is now very obviously just a fantasy, because we have classes that have sets of individuals with completely different features and rhythms for learning, and of course this is challenging, because when we assume wrongly, but we wrongly assume that we are all exactly the same, and that all the students that we have in front of a class are exactly the same. We don't need to be very creative in order to be able to teach. And we see the rise of populism, the rise of new radicalisms, and polarizations in the way we address all the topics and all the subjects. And this is also a problem for schools. So this is the context where we are, and this is, I think, some of the reasons why we should be discussing what we are discussing in this conference. So let me start with my 11 reasons. The first one is that there is a clash between what people used and still use sometimes to consider a good student, a well-behaved student, and what the society requires from us when we are delivering the product of education, educated children and adolescents to society. So the traditional view on a good student is someone who's very quiet in class, who knows the answers for every question, who's very competitive because he will be the top student in his class. But then what we expect from people who finish their studies is that they are not very quiet, that they are active and being able to discuss and present new solutions. We expect them to be cooperative, that they are able to work in teams and not only to be the top worker in their domain. We expect them to be able to solve new problems and not just to repeat whatever has been taught or delivered to them. And so what does this have to do with the creativity? That means to say that we don't need to create passive students, the ones that are just sitting and repeating, but we need to create people who are able to look at the world and interpret and provide new solutions when they discuss and work together with them. We tried here in Portugal to to develop an instrument which is now the basis for our national curriculum, which is a student profile by the end of compulsory schooling that spells out the areas of competence to be developed, in which creative and critical thinking are one of the 10 areas of competence, but also autonomy, responsibility, problem solving, because we know that without the development of these competencies, we are not preparing the students for the present. I'm not even mentioning preparing for the future. I'm talking about preparing for the present. Reason number 2 is that we are actually not discussing anything that is new. When you think of our old scientists like Galileo or the ancient philosophers like Plato and Socrates, these were people that were not just repeating whatever had been taught to them. They were curious. They were asking new questions. They were testing new hypotheses. They were discussing with each other how we should look and interpret the world. So if we want school just to repeat, to make students that repeat fixed solutions, we are killing science. We are killing the spirit of science because we are training people for doing routine works, for being very good at memorizing the past and not in opening new ways towards the future. And what we can do about this in school is really to further develop the role of experimental sciences in class, the lab work, and show students these models. There's one of my favorite books is called The Beautiful Question, and it really shows how the biggest advances in physics, in technology these days started in ancient philosophy, because someone just looked at something that he could not explain and started asking questions. So the power of being amazed and awed at something that we don't understand is the basis for the development of scientific knowledge. Then I go again to the issue of navigating information these days, and we have all these examples of fake news that populate our world these days. I like this one that I found. The concept of algorithm was invented by the father of the internet, Al Gore, who named it after himself. And this is something that some teenagers believed in, and this was something to try to manipulate some of the opinions in American elections, or the very usual thing that you find on the internet. You put a face next to a sentence, and everyone believes that the person that is portrayed in this image said something. And one of these cases is the miscredit of Albert Einstein on a saying about creativity. We see these images of Albert Einstein saying creativity is just intelligence having fun. And the fact is that he never said or wrote this sentence. He wrote things about creativity, he wrote things about intelligence, but never that sentence. And what this means, because we are, as I mentioned before, in this avalanche of information, what this means is that there are new tools, new skills that we have to develop in students, so that they can tease apart what is wrong and what is right. They have to be able, on the basis of their knowledge, on the basis of the knowledge they acquire in school, then to use this knowledge and to have tools to know if something is being presented to me in the absence of my teacher, who can validate the what I have in front of me. What are the tools I have to develop to have this ability to to tease apart false from truth. And this is something that we learn. This is something that we learn when we develop critical thinking. We learn it when we study philosophy. We learn it by using the knowledge we have in science in the judgment of what we read or see in my screen. We learn it when we learn language, when we learn that if I find some markers of language, like if I find an adverb like luckily in the middle of a text that is supposed to be an informative text or a scientific text, that this is a mark of subjectivity, and therefore I should be skeptical about the nature of the text that I'm reading. Then there is an issue about memory and keeping what we have learned. In many cases, and all of us have experienced this, we go to school, we learn a lot of facts, we enjoy them sometimes, then we have an exam, we give back the facts and informations and knowledge that we got, and then after some period of time, we forgot. When we are invited to use this knowledge to create new things, when we are invited to use this knowledge to apply it in new situations, there is a bigger probability that we'll never forget what we learn. When we debate and we discuss what we have learned, when we are asked to, on the basis of what we've learned, to create a new product, to create a new solution for something that doesn't have a solution in front of us, the likelihood that we do not forget is much higher. Then let me talk about diversity and inclusion as a very important part of the development of creativity. When we are talking about a more inclusive society, when we are always talking about human rights, and we are talking about advances in democracy, and all of those, and the picture I chose here is the very known picture with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. People who thought of this declaration, people who thought of abolishing slavery, they were creative. They were not just making counts on whether it would be very expensive for the nations to provide education for everyone, or whether employers would be spending much more money by not having slaves. They were creative. They looked at the world and they thought something else is possible. And when we invite students to look at their colleagues who have different languages, who have some kind of impairment in language, physical impairment, a cognitive impairment, and we tell them they are also able to learn. They can also be part of our class. We are really fostering imagination. We are using the development of creativity to ask the students and ask the teachers as well, what can I do differently so that these students are also part of the learning process. So what I'm arguing for is that we cannot think of inclusive education if we are not open to creative solutions, to be imaginative, to be able to teach and learn in different ways. Then my reason number six is that asking questions is really the basis of knowledge, and with the rise of artificial intelligence, what we know, and especially generative artificial intelligence, what we know is that we have machines that respond faster and faster. And so we ask, and we don't need these recent news on artificial intelligence. When calculators appeared, they were already providing answers that were faster than what some of us could do without a calculator. But things are changing very rapidly, and the ability of technology to process loads and loads of information can make us very lazy, in the sense that well, the machine will respond for me, so why should I know everything? And in some domains, this is actually true. Of course, we always have to identify what is the knowledge that we all must have, and the heritage that we must all know about when we don't have power in our phone, or we are out of signal and we cannot the machine. But my point is a different one. My point is the machine can provide answers, but if we don't know what we want to know about, if we don't know what is the question, we'll never understand the answer, or we can give bad information because we didn't ask the question very in the right way. So this has a lot to do with the role of creativity in education. When we are stimulating schools to develop active methodologies and problem-based learning, we are really focusing on the question as the best strategy to then find answers. And the machine is good at giving answers, but the machine is not good at identifying whether the question is well formulated. And for me to have a right question, we are talking here about creativity and critical thinking, but I'd like to add another piece which is very important, which is curiosity. If a school is not developing curiosity in children, they will never be able to ask questions. And if they are not able to ask questions, they will never be interested or able to identify the quality of the answers. Then traditionally, school is about results. We are concerned with the quality of the solution that the student provides in an exam. We are concerned about the rates of success, whether their marks are good or bad. But many times, more important than the result, or a key to a good result, is the process. And creativity is this tool for us to be able to identify the steps that we take in order to get to a given result. And so the valuing of the process, and this is very critical for what again the society demands from us, to be able to identify if a given step in our reasoning is needed or not, if there are connections that we can make between steps of a given process. These are critical for us to become more active thinkers and able to solve problems in a much more effective way. Because when we value the process, we can start developing the ability to identify patterns, to identify sequentiality, to identify causal relations. And for this, we need the time that creativity and critical thinking requires. Then my reason number 8 is when we ask kids, when we were children, what do you want to be when you grow up? We had this fixed set of jobs and professions that we knew that existed, and by now it's almost a cliche to say that we don't know what will be the jobs of the future. And if we are just training students for rote learning, we are not preparing them to the uncertainty of their jobs. Again, as in my reason number one, we have to equip students with the ability to adapt, with adaptability to new situations. And we are not able to adapt to new situations if we are not creative, if we are not able to think differently from what we have learned before. There is a book by a Portuguese scientist, António Damasio, which is called Descartes' Error. And what he shows in this book is that, basing his argumentation on the evidence provided by neuroscience, is that when we take decisions, when we make decisions, we use reason, but we use a lot of emotion. So the process of decision making is equally conditioned by reason and by our emotional skills. So what this means is that if we don't develop social emotional skills, and in particular emotional skills in students, we are not preparing them to make right decisions, and we can unbalance the role of the process of decision making if we only work the part of the brain that has to do with reason. And creativity is all about emotions. Here in Portugal, we develop a national plan for arts in schools. We put artists in schools doing residencies with students so that they talk and create with the students, that they immerse the students in the creative process. And one of the reasons for us to do this is that art promotes well-being, and when we feel well, our emotions are more balanced, and therefore we are freer. We have the freedom to make right decisions. Almost finishing, don't worry. My 10th reason is democracy. We are all worried in many countries about democratic downsliding and the erosion of some democratic values. And we see this happening these days. And sometimes well, at least I feel that we are all seeing this happening, and we are not being able to grab and stop it as we should be doing. Now, why am I bringing the preservation of democracy to this discussion on creativity and critical thinking in education? The reason is democracy requires time. For us to live in democracy, we need the time to debate, to discuss, to find consensus, to understand the position of the other part, to concede and make sure that my solution is not necessarily the best. And when we introduce these two dimensions, critical thinking and creativity in education, these are processes that require time. And of course, this raises new questions, like the questions related to curriculum overload, that if we have a curriculum that is only based on lists of facts, we don't have the time in school to give the students the opportunity to debate, to understand each other, to go deeper in the reflection, and we may be creating citizens that are only concerned with an individual reaching of all the answers without even questioning them and without even trying to find alternative solutions. And the same holds for complexity. Democracy is incompatible with posts of 140 characters in a social network. Populisms rise because populists try to give simple answers to complex questions. And that school is the place of complexity. School is the place where we understand that in order to understand a phenomenon of nature, we need to analyze it, we need to go deeper. School is the place where we introduce students to literature, to poetry, and therefore this is the place where we understand that to really go deeper into a problem and to fly away from easy solutions to complex problems, we need to grant ourselves the time of reading a book, the time of discussing what we have read, the time for the discussion of the alternative solutions that the arts and the literature propose to us. And that is my final reason and my final slide. One of the reasons to promote creativity in education is because we are humans. We are human beings. And if we want to preserve our humanity, we have to have the arts and the humanities in the curriculum. I'm a linguist, and there are these two aspects that identify the uniqueness of human beings. One is that we are the only species who has a language. Other species have communication codes, but language, this ability to talk about what is not present, to use the language to talk about alternatives, that's uniquely human. And another thing that is uniquely human is our ability to be amazed when we look at a piece of art, when we read a poem, when we listen to a concert. Time stops when we are experiencing these opportunities. And again, going back to the previous slide, we need time to stop when we want to foster democracy. And many times we try to justify art, but art does not need justification. Art and creation are part of what we are as humans. So if we introduce the arts and we strengthen the arts in relation with the process of creation, we are really reinforcing the humanity of our students. And so I hope I have convinced you with my 11 reasons, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. You definitely convinced me, and I would think that you convinced a lot of us here around the table and in Zoom for this amazingly inspirational opening address. And I'm even more grateful and amazed by it, knowing that what you called creative COVID caught you. I thought that already that was kind of one quote that I take away from this presentation, but there are so many that I'm not even going to try to summarize it. I just want to say that for us working on education, it was really important for you to make the comment really about the basics of creativity being linked to the science. We should not make those exclusive. Also the link to how important creativity is for society and our democracy and for us as human beings. And the last point, you probably didn't have to convince me so hard because as a fellow linguist. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
It was a
and
pleasure.
I wish you a quicker recovery.
This is a weak COVID.
Yeah.